slide instead of the stairs. And that way, if it doesn't work, we can just haul them up with a winch. So this is kind of an encore program. I was asked to do it last minute, which I was happy to do. And it's all about Christmas customs and traditions. And if you can't hear me or you can't see, please do not throw tomatoes. Just raise your hand. What's that? Yeah, it is. I can speak louder. Okay. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols being sung by a fire. And folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows the famous Nat King Cole song. The song was written in 1944 by, does anybody know? Mel Torme. It evokes all of the familiar images of the Christmas holiday. But how did these images become associated with Christmas? Most of the things we associate with Christmas today began during the reign of Queen Victoria. You remember her, Bonnie, right?
I do. She was a dear friend.
Now, it's common knowledge that Queen Victoria had a German-born husband named Prince Albert. And if you were ever a teenager, when I was, you'd get a call and say, hey, do you have Prince Albert in a can? And I'd say yes, and he'd say, take it out, take him out. I just left him in. It was Prince Albert who introduced and popularized the Christmas tree in England. And in 1841, Albert and Victoria decorated a large Christmas tree at their summer cottage, Windsor Castle. Soon, decorated trees at Christmas were all the fashion in England. The Christmas tree tradition, as we know it, began in Germany in the 17th century. It was a beloved tradition of that country, and they had feather trees. And when I was a kid, my grandmother showed me her German-born parents' feather Christmas tree that she had preserved thus far. And it must have been a good tree because the moths ate it. Christmas trees in Germany were made of tree branches and feathers, usually goose feathers being preferred, and they were all dyed green. German immigrants brought the Christmas tree tradition to America as early as the 17th century, and it was very fashionable here by the 19th century. And this is a modern version of a Victorian Christmas tree. This is, obviously they didn't have electric lights, but this is what it would have looked like if we did in Victorian times. Now, the one thing you have to remember about the Victorians is that they raised everything to an art form, from the way they mourned their dead to the way they celebrated holidays. They revived such old traditions as caroling, but also created new ones, such as sending Christmas cards in 1840. It's kind of hard to think of 1840 being modern at this point in time, but at that time it was. The first known Christmas card was made by William Egley in 1840. Egley's card, now at the British Museum, depicted people dancing, singing carols, eating Christmas dinner, and giving food to the poor. Egley printed 100 of these cards and sent them to friends and family. And that is Mr. Egley. He looks like he'd be fun at a party, really, but I wish I had his hair. The first commercial Christmas card was made about the same time at the behest of Sir Henry Cole. he hired an artist named John Horsley, and Horsley designed this card. These cards were hand-colored, and thousands of copies were made, selling for $1 each. Now, how much was $1? Well, we could ask this man. Anybody recognize the taller gentleman? Scrooge paid Cratchit 15 shillings a week. And in today's money, it equals to almost $100 a week. A more recent anecdote about Christmas cards. In 1914, a postcard featuring a colored drawing of Santa Claus and a young girl was mailed on December 23rd, 1914. And after a journey of 93 years, it was finally delivered. No story as to where it had been for those 93 years, but it was just a good thing that the little girl lived in the same place. For Christmas, the Victorians attended church, gave gifts, gave charity to the poor, and as part of the holiday, and it was they that took, excuse me, it was they that took the folk characters. And see, there's the Victorians going to church. It was they that took the folk characters of Santa Claus and Father Christmas and transformed them into the symbols of the holiday, generosity and kindness. And this is a depiction of Victorians celebrating Christmas. Victorians made Christmas into a family celebration, focusing on children and, anybody want to take a guess? The Christ child. One Victorian in particular had more to do with the way we celebrate Christmas than any other. His name was, anybody want to take a guess? Charles Dickens. At the dawn of the Victorian era, the celebration of Christmas was in serious decline. Medieval Christmas customs, which had been combined with celebrations of Christ's birth with the festival of the Roman god Saturnalia and the Germanic Yule Fest, had long been denounced by the Puritans. And the Industrial Revolution going on at the time left very little time for the workers to celebrate anything. With the publication of the Christmas Carol in 1843, it really rekindled the spirits of Christmas in Britain and America. This is a picture of the cover of an original Christmas Carol from 1843. The familiar themes of the tale have endeared it to the hearts of many for many years and made it a Christmas classic. Everyone knows a Scrooge or a Cratchit or a Tiny Tim. But let's go back to the beginning. Christmas is, at its base, a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. Thus, the Christ in Christmas. But when was he born? The Gospel does not specify a date of Jesus' birth, but it gives us clues. Contemporary research into the clues the Gospel provides suggests that his date was in early April, which at this point in time I would gladly celebrate Christmas in early April. This means that Jesus was actually crucified about 2 weeks after his birthday. Some of the symbols of Christmas are associated with the event of Christ's birth are described in Luke 2, verses 8 through 12. There we go. The Star of Bethlehem. There is much controversy as to what the star actually was. Some say it was a star which made its most recent appearance in 1975. Anybody remember that? I remember that. Others claim it was everything from a planet to a supernova to a space shuttle. But whatever it was, actually, the image of the Christmas star has been captured the imagination, has become one of the iconic images of the season. The three kings, or wise men, are iconic for Christmas. Them riding on their camels, bearing gifts. However, people in northern Arabia typically only rode Arabian horses at the time of Christ's birth. Camels were used only as pack animals and actually introduced in the Middle East about 300 years after Christ's birth. Wealthy travelers used the more comfortable and swift horse. The three kings, magi, or wise men, whose names were Balthazar, Gaspar, or Casper, and Melchior, are most closely associated with the star. Again, there's much controversy as to who they were and what their purpose was. One tradition says that Balthazar was king of Arabia, or Chaldea, Gaspar or Casper was king of India, or Ind, and Melchior was the king of Persia. An 8th century saint, Bede the Venerable, or Venerable Bede, as we were taught, described the Magi in this way. The first was called Melchior, and he was an old man with white hair and a long beard. He offered gold to the Lord as to his king. The second, Gaspar by name, young, beardless, of ruddy hue, offered to Jesus his gift of incense, the homage due to divinity. The third, of black complexion with heavy beard, was called Balthazar. The myrrh he held in his hands prefigured the death of the Son of Man. Myrrh is an aromatic tree sap used by the Jewish people when preparing a body for burial. Other theories tell us that perhaps they were not kings at all, but simply officials, or magi. Some sources point out that the Bible does not say they were three magi, that there were three magi, just three gifts. So the magi could have simply sent the gifts by emissary and not actually traveled there themselves. Others point out that there may have been a female, as in some cultures of that time, women held positions of power. Some believe there were 12 magi, and each brought a gift either of gold, frankincense, or myrrh. The Kurds claim that the magi were all Kurdish. The word magi, at least partly, derived from the Proto-Kurdish word, look similar? The mother of the Emperor Constantine, St. Helena, also played a role in the Magi tale. At the age of 80, in 326 AD, Helena went to where legend says the Magi were entombed on the hill of Vaz, or Victory, in the kingdom of Ind, or India. On the same journey, she collected pieces of the true cross. She claimed to have found the remains of Melchior, Balthazar, and Casper. Queen Helena put them into a chest and ornamented it with great riches, and she brought all the relics back to Constantinople and laid them in a church that is called St. Sophia. And this is the tomb of the Magi in St. Sophia Cathedral. And this is a closer look at the chest where the remains are actually said to reside. Melchior, Balthazar, and Gaspar only met on the outskirts of Jerusalem, having traveled from their own lands in great haste and without stopping. They reached Bethlehem to present their gifts. When the Magi departed, they continued together until they reached the Hill of Vaz, or Hill of Victory, on the border of Ind. They ordained the hill of Oz should be the place of their burial. One reference tells us that later they were all baptized, and giving all their possessions to the poor, they went about living a life of poverty and preaching the gospel of peace until their martyrdom in India. Two other legends associated with the Magi's journey to Bethlehem. One is of a young shepherdess named Madeline, who met the wise men journeying to Bethlehem and wept because she had no suitable gift to give a king. Catching the sweet aroma of a lily, Madeline looked up from her tears and found an angel standing before her with a wand made of lilies. As soon as she shared the cause of her sorrow with the angel, it waved its wand, causing the road to Bethlehem to be lined with Christmas roses. White Christmas roses, to be specific. Madeline gathered a bouquet of these flowers and ran to catch up with the wise men. In Bethlehem, she presented her roses to the Christ child, and his touch caused them to glow with a pink tinge. The second tells us that in exchange for their expensive gifts, Mary gave the wise men some of the swaddling clothes in which Jesus had been wrapped. She also gave them a little box with a stone in it. The stone was supposed to remind them that their faith ought to be as strong as a rock. Mary must have neglected to tell them that, because thinking this stone was worthless baggage, the wise men tossed it into a well, whereupon fire from heaven filled the well. The amazed wise men carried the fire back to their own country and built a magnificent cathedral around it so that the people could worship it. Another popular symbol of Christmas are the angels, because of the angels appearing in the Christmas story. Luke tells us that angels appeared to the shepherds as they watched their flocks by night. This also indicates that the birth took place in the spring. Victorians made the angels whimsical. Angels are thought to be benevolent guardians. Angels are also thought to be Zophiels, or God's messengers on earth. And they're watching us over us at all times. For people that study angels and demons, angels' original purpose, according to them, is they are God's warriors. So the question is asked, why do we celebrate Christmas on December 25th? December 25th was the date of the lavish Roman festival of Saturnalia. It was a time when gifts were exchanged, homes, streets, and buildings were decorated, people came home for the holiday, and everybody was in a happy party mood. It has been said that the early Christians chose the date of Saturnalia in order to avoid attention and thus escape persecution, as Christianity was outlawed in the Roman Empire. When the Roman Emperor Constantine officially adopted Christianity in the 4th century, the date of Christmas remained December 25th. The custom of kissing under a mistletoe began as the kissing bough. In the early Middle Ages, it was customary in Europe to hang a small treetop upside down as a symbol of the Holy Trinity. Over the decades, the bough became important also as a status symbol, as families would vie with each other to dress up their bough more finely. Ribbons, gilded nuts, and small apples were typical. The custom was discontinued due to the Puritan. Those darn Puritans write everything. By the time the Victorians took joy in acknowledging all of the old customs again, the custom of the kissing bough had transformed into a kiss under the mistletoe. The mistletoe has long been thought to be a bestower of life and fertility, and also as an aphrodisiac. In In some parts of England, the Christmas mistletoe is burned on the 12th night, lest all the boys and girls who have kissed under it never marry. The image of Santa Claus is an integral part of the non-secular part of the holiday. Again, there is much debate about the origins of this character and this image. Indeed, Santa Claus himself is under attack. Some say that he portrays the wrong body image for children and should be slimmed down. In some retail locations, Santa is forbidden to say ho 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 because the term ho is offensive to women. Since Santa Claus is derived from the life of St. Nicholas, it is derived from his life. St. Nicholas was born in modern Turkey about 280 AD. He gave away all of his inherited wealth and traveled the countryside helping the poor. One story tells us how he gave money to a man to use as a dowry so his 3 daughters could be married instead of being sold as slaves or into prostitution. And that's St. Nicholas. Because of the 3 bags of gold he gave to the merchant for his daughters, St. Nicholas's symbol became 3 gold balls, today used by pawn shops. St. Nicholas became known as the protector of children and sailors. His feast day is celebrated on the anniversary of his death, December 6th. This was traditionally considered a lucky day to make large purchases or to get married. Anybody get married on December 6th? No? 600 years later, the Roman emperor made St. Nicholas the patron saint of Russia. In time, the story of St. Nicholas spread to Lapland, the land of the people whose main transportation were sleighs drawn by reindeer. And this is Father Christmas, and he is derived from the Viking folklore of the god Odin. Odin brought to Britain in the 8th and 9th centuries. During December, the Vikings believed that Odin would come to earth on his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. He was disguised in a long blue hooded cloak, and he carried a satchel of bread and a staff. The characters of Father Christmas and Santa Claus remained separate in Europe until the 1950s. At that time, the two blended into one character and is called by both names. It was Clement C. Moore who set the stage for the image to change the modern Santa Claus in his 1822 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. Moore, while portraying Santa as an elf, gave him more human acting features. The image we think of as the modern Santa was invented by a Swedish-American artist called Haddon Sandblom, if I pronounce that right, for Coca-Cola in 1931. Their Christmas Santa ads ran for 35 years, each image created by Sandblom. The ads portrayed Santa in human size instead of his elfin proportions. Candy canes are another familiar sight at Christmas time. Tradition holds that in about 1670, the choir master of the Cologne Cathedral was frustrated by fidgety kids during the living nativity. He had some white sugar candy sticks made to keep them quiet. The sticks were carved like a shepherd's staff in honor of the shepherds at the stable. In 1847, a German-Swedish immigrant named August Eingard put candy canes on his Christmas tree in Worcester, Ohio. The sweets gained popularity here too, and from the turn of the century they assumed their now popular and familiar properties of red stripes and peppermint flavoring. In Albany, Georgia in 1920, a candy maker named Bob McCormick made canes as special treats for the family and friends. It was him who came up with the meanings for the candy. The candy is hard because God's church is founded on a rock, white because of Jesus' purity, and peppermint flavor as a reference to the cleansing hyssop plant, and curved to represent the shepherd's staff and or the letter J for Jesus if you turn it upside down. The red stripes stand for Christ's blood. The hyssop is a branchy herb plant in the mint family, and it has medicinal properties. The vinegar-soaked sponge that was lifted to Jesus' mouth at the crucifixion was said to have been on the end of a hyssop branch. Poinsettias are native to Mexico. They were named after America's first ambassador to Mexico. Anybody remember his name?
John Poinsett.
Actually, it was Joel Poinsett.
Joel.
He brought the plants to America in 1828. The Mexicans in the 18th century thought the plants were symbolic of the Star of Bethlehem. Thus, the poinsettia became associated with the Christmas season. The actual flower of the poinsettia is small and yellow, but surrounding the flower are large, bright red leaves, often mistaken for petals. Tinsel was invented in Germany around 1610. At that time, real silver was used. The machines were invented which pulls the silver into the wafer-thin strips for tinsel. Silver was durable but tarnished quickly, especially in the candlelight. Attempts were made to use a mixture of lead and tin, but this was heavy and tended to break under its own weight, and so was not very practical. So silver was used for tinsel right up until the mid-20th century. An addition of tinsel as a decoration comes from the legend about a poor old woman who was unable to provide decorations for her children's Christmas tree. During the night, spiders lodged in the tree and covered it with their webs. The Christ child, seeing this, realized that the woman would be sad to see her tree spoiled. So he turned the spider webs into silver, and the next morning the poor family was dazzled by the brilliant tinsel that shone on the tree. A newer icon of the holiday is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rudolph was created by Robert L. May in 1939 as part of his employment with Montgomery Ward. Johnny Marks, May's brother-in-law, decided to adapt May's story into a song which through the years has been recorded by many artists, including one that Bonnie has particular, let's just say she met him. Gene Autry recorded it in 1949. He initially passed on Johnny Marks's Rudolph in the belief that the song did not suit his image, but his wife urged him to reconsider. Gene Autry's 1949 recording became the biggest seller the Columbia label ever had. The simple tale of the misunderstood reindeer remains Gene Autry's all-time biggest seller. In 1964, a TV special by Rankin and Bass made it a modern classic as well. Anybody remember those? Another literary icon of the season is A Visit from St. Nicholas, written in 1822 by Clement C. Moore. Moore was a minister, and his father, Benjamin Moore, not the paint guy, participated in the inauguration of George Washington. The poem was written as a gift for his children, and it was Washington Irving who inspired Moore's vision of Old St. Nick. In 1809, Irving described Santa as a chubby little man with a jolly smile drawn by a team of reindeer. And this is an illustration of St. Nicholas done by Thomas Mass for the very first publication of A Visit from St. Nicholas. Moore did not acknowledge writing the poem until 1837 because he felt it was not proper for a minister to promote the non-secular part of the holiday. And even this simple poem is not without controversy. It has been claimed with some credibility that the poem was first written in 1807 by Henry Livingston Jr., a Dutch poet. The Christmas stocking goes back to St. Nicholas. The first story about St. Nicholas is about a poor man who had no money to give his 3 daughters on their wedding day. St. Nick dropped off bags of gold into the stocking which the girls had left dry by the fire. The sisters found the gold, and ever since, children have hung up stockings on Christmas Eve, hoping they will be filled with presents by Christmas morning. I bet you all did that, didn't you, at one time? No? Nobody? Wow. Oh, Nancy Cornelius, Nancy Johnson. Yeah. And I bet they were full too in the morning, weren't they?
Yeah.
Evidently not what you wanted.
Yeah, right, or oranges, yes, I did. That's right. Christmas trees. For many people, the holiday season would not be complete without a Christmas tree. The tradition has become so beloved that it has been transferred to other holidays. Today we have Halloween trees, Easter trees, money trees, memory trees, etc. Some people even have large plants in their homes which they keep lit all year round. But where and how did the tradition of lighting the tree start? The Druids were the first to set lighted candles on tree branches. The first officially decorated tree, according to legend, was at Riga in Latvia in 1510. St. Boniface used his triangular-shaped hat to teach about the life of the Holy Trinity, and so it represents a key sign of the evangelization of the Teutonic peoples. In the early 16th century, Martin Luther is said to have decorated a small Christmas tree with candles to show his children that the stars twinkled through the dark night. And another favorite tradition is that of, any Germans in here?
Yep.
Christmas pickle. The Christmas pickle is a very old Christmas Eve tradition in Germany. And it was to hide a pickle, or a pickle ornament, deep in the branches of the family Christmas tree. The parents hung the pickle last after all the other ornaments were in place. In the morning, they knew the most observant child would receive an extra gift from St. Nicholas. The first adult who finds the pickle traditionally gets good luck for the whole year. This tradition has a few flaws in it, however. The German St. Nick comes on December 5th or 6th, and the German children open their gifts on Christmas Eve, not Christmas morning. But the biggest problem with the German pickle tradition is that no one in Germany has ever heard of it. We're going to move on to just a few images of Christmas. And this is a picture. This is supposed to be a local Maquoketa family, or at least Jackson County family, celebrating Christmas in their parlor in 1890. If you can see the expression of the gentleman on his face, the one by the cat, you can see he's very excited. And this is a picture of the Salem Lutheran Church, Spragueville altar area, about 1932. They went all out with the tree browse, and the tinsel at that time was actual silver. I remember as a child some of that was still around, and they kept it kind of under lock and key. The story was it wasn't because of the children, but I still do remember it. A whimsical view of Christmas. You got the mouse, the frog, and the mole all celebrating Christmas together in some kind of underground parlor. And this is just a graphic of Dad bringing home the Christmas tree with the horse on the sled. Anybody ever do that? Not even with the tractor and wagon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. I remember that at the different houses, because I helped my grandparents and my great aunts and uncles. And the first thing I learned was you don't try to pull it through the door by the top. You pull it by the trunk. And so every time I see them pull a tree through a door on TV, it's like, I say something in my head I won't repeat here. And this is just a girl whispering into Santa's ear what she would like for Christmas. And the depiction of a winter sleigh ride. In the end, no matter what the custom, tradition, ethnic origin, language, secular or not, the ultimate message of Christmas remains the same. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. And this message is summed up very neatly by Tiny Tim Cratchit, who said, "God bless us, everyone. Merry Christmas."